Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Through Shahida Mausi and her son Dorean Mausi, Mayor Coleman A. Young in an honor. Thank you.
When Satori asked me to do this, she wanted me to tell a story about Mayor Young, because I had the opportunity to have a special relationship with him for a long time. I had that special relationship because of my mother, Joyce Garrett. She was an important part of Mayor Young's life for a long time, before he was mayor. And so the most impactful story that I wanted to share, I realized really wasn't mine to tell. That story belonged to my son, Doreen. And so I asked him, even though he was really busy, really busy, if he would do this. And he agreed. And so I introduced to you my son, my eldest son, Dorean Mausi.
It's the summer of 1982. I'm 12 years old. I grew up on 12th Street in Longfellow, the oldest of 4 boys. We played football in the vacant lots and tried not to blow our ankles out in the potholes or roll them on the rocks there. Stickball in the yard, we broke out every window on the side of our house, one at a time. Sorry, Ma. We'd, get a frame of a bike and, get little defunct pieces together and put it together just so we could have a stunt bike to jump off of a ramp or something, build go-karts out of big wheels and old skateboard parts. So I'm entering the 7th grade, and I'm going to a new school, and they call it Cranbrook. Never heard of Cranbrook. None of my friends had ever heard of Cranbrook. I hear it's an all-boys school. Don't quite know how to feel about that because hadn't quite discovered the miracle of girls yet. So, all-boys school, okay. So on day 1, we're driving up to West Bloomfield, a long journey up Woodward. As the scenes begin to change, the houses get enormous. The lawns are huge, they look like parts of golf courses. You can put mine on the lawn a few times and still have room to play. We pull up to the school and it's like the auto show is there. Every car that you could ever imagine, Rolls Royce, Bentley, you name it, was there. Didn't notice anybody else that looked like me. Come to find out later on, I was one of 4 black young men at that school. There was another gentleman that worked there, he worked in the kitchen, so that made 5 brown faces. Don't know anything any different, so we're going. As time goes on, we are taking a little time, and then racism kind of starts. You get the feel of that. I remember an instance where I'm in the bookstore line, and there are a couple of guys behind me, and they're ready to form the Nigger Beaters Club. Wasn't sure exactly where this was coming from because this was the first time I'd ever heard that word used like that against me. I was aware of, our past as a country and as a people, but it was right here at me. And I recall, I did grow up on 12th Street. I know what it sounds like just before somebody jumps you. So I go first. I give it to them as best I can. I know I'm in enormous trouble as I'm sitting in the principal's office waiting on my mom to take that long drive from downtown. I'm wondering, are they going to put me out? What's going to happen here? So she gets there and they tell her, how I can't be hitting people, I can't let words take me to that part and those things. And she leans in and she says, so what about the club? What about the club? So time goes on, I'm back to class. Father's Day is coming. And my dad wasn't a part of my life when I was growing up. And I noticed everybody's getting geared up for Father's Day, and they're invited to the school. Everyone's dad's coming. Don't know how I felt about that. I don't ever recall making mention of it to my family that I felt some kind of way about that. Didn't have it to miss, but I knew I was going to be the only one in the class without a dad there. So the day finally arrives, and everyone's there. I'm sitting kind of in the back of the classroom, just, quietly waiting on the day to be over. And then out the window, I noticed a couple Detroit police cars pull up. I'm like, someone's in trouble. And then the black limousine pulls up. And I'm like, hey, is that Cole? I used to call Mary Young Cole. And I noticed that it is. I'm like, wow, why is he here? Is there a press conference? Is there something important going on because the mayor's here? And I wonder if the teachers will let me go out and speak. Can I convince them that I even know him? As I'm sitting there in my confusion, Sergeant Fleming comes to the door. That was who was always with Cole. Always. And it dawns on me that he's here for me. This is my dad for Father's Day. Cool. I don't know how he came to be there. I don't know who told him. Like I say, I never spoke to my family about that. We went to classes together. We went to lunch together. He spent the first half of the day there with me. Some of the kids would come and we'd, talk. And the parents, the parents and the other teachers were kind of standoffish a little. People come peering around the hall and looking like, is this really true? It's really true. It's really true. It wasn't until later on down the way in life that I realized how actually significant that was for him to take off half a day just to go back to 7th grade with me. Traveling between Cranbrook and home on 12th Street required to walk a very interesting line. Out on one side, I'm listening to Van Halen and Boy George. And I get back home and it's, Curtis Blow and Run DMC. And you got to walk that line on both sides. You can't go too far either way, otherwise you're this or not that or whatever. But that day showed me a lot. Something that you do for people that you care about. Something you do to people that you want to feel loved. And I did. And that was my Father's Day in '82.
Coleman Young and your grandmother were there at the hospital when you were born. And on the day that the Honorable Coleman Alexander Young was laid to rest here in the city of Detroit, we were there, riding in the family car as the processional left Greater Grace and rolled down 7 Mile. It took 3 hours to get from Greater Grace to Elmwood Cemetery. And it took 3 hours because the road was entirely lined with the citizens of the city of Detroit that loved that man. Every walk of life, every uniform, from cooks to officers to police and fire to hairdressers to garbage men, teachers, children, senior citizens, lined the way. And for 3 hours, and we don't have a video of that from inside the car. You've got the aerial views, but to see it from the inside allowed us a very special perspective of the outpouring of love that this city had, and I think still has, for a man who also saw to it that this building got built. And a lot of other things, including Shane Park, and we'll talk about that. But Father's Day, Coleman Young, thank you.
Dorean and Shahida Mausi. Thank you for that beautiful tribute.